You know, there are really some times in life where it's just very tough to not lose all hope in humanity. And with these politically motivated attacks in Minnesota, it has become one of those cases. Because instead of taking a look at how some of this politically charged rhetoric coming from the right may have contributed to the radicalization of somebody like Vance Boelter, the suspected killer in this case, they decided that they wanted to start making up stories and conspiracies to slander Tim Walz, to slander these Democratic officials, and most importantly, they wanted to make people think that this shooter, this killer, this heinous criminal was somehow some sort of left-wing lunatic. But the facts pointed very clearly in one direction, and we even had Vance Boelter's roommate come out and confirm that yes, indeed, he was on the right. Like, it wasn't even close. So let's go ahead and take a look at what his roommate said really quick, and then I want to jump into some of the insane stories that the right wing has been trying to spin up to try to point blame to the other side of the aisle. If you guys do appreciate my work, please do remember to subscribe.
A little bit, I know that you had some discussions. I just wanted to talk.
Well, everyone's calling him a Democrat. He's not a Democrat. He would be offended if people called him a Democrat. Because of this board thing he was on for Governor Walz, it wasn't to serve. He was just serving the community.
So this is Vance Boelter's best friend for 40 or 50 years, somebody that he has known since 4th grade. And he's coming out and saying very clearly that Vance Boelter, he'd be offended if you called him a Democrat. He'd be offended because that is not who he is. This is somebody who cares about abortion. This is somebody who voted for Donald Trump, and we'll look at a clip of him saying that later. But it's very clear that this was a right-wing lunatic who decided to take matters into his own hands and carry out politically motivated assassination and assassination attempts because he had some sort of bone to pick with people on the left. It was very, very clear. And instead, like I said, instead of coming to grips with that, we had people like Benny Johnson, who levied some of the more tame responses. Here he is implying that this was some sort of false flag or something.
Today is Monday, June 16th, 2025. Minnesota suspected assassin Vance Boelter was captured alive after intense manhunt. But there's so many mysteries about this dark event in Minnesota, and there is a lot of disinformation out there. We're going to go through the facts on the program. What the hell's happening here? Is it a massive false flag? Nothing seems to make sense. There seems to be a massive constellation of disinformation and everyone pointing fingers at each other. So we're going to go through the cold, hard facts. We're going to show you the evidence on screen, and we'll, I guess, let you decide. We can only assume that we're not getting the full picture. I'm sorry, but these are the same agencies that brought you the Whitmer Fednapping, that brought you January 6th, that brought you the Epstein cases, that brought you Ghislaine Maxwell. These are the same people. These are the same people. So we're going to show you all of the available evidence, and we're going to talk through like what's actually happening here. It's very, very strange and very dark and very evil.
Does he not know who's in power right now? Does he not realize that Kash Patel and Dan Bongino, they are the ones who are running the FBI? What does it even mean? These are the same people who gave you the Fedsurrection, January 6th, the kidnapping of Gretchen Whitmer. Donald Trump is in office now, you dumbass. It is his people who he appointed to cabinet-level positions and on down the line. So to think that this is somehow some sort of conspiracy from left-wing lunatics to carry out attack on their own people, it makes no sense. This is what happens when you have a dishonest people who are trying everything they can to score political points, and instead of adhering to the truth and the facts, they have to spin up these stories, spin up these conspiracies. They try to cast doubt on what is actually going on because they do not want their political side to be implicated in such a heinous act of violence. That is what is going on here. Here's Alex Jones taking the false flag idea even a little bit further.
This came out within a few hours of this happening yesterday. And to me, this looks extremely ungenuine and scripted. Oh, and you heard the reporter, it's Vance Boelter. See, it's his last words. Oh, text messaged. A guy in a rubber mask supposedly does this, tries to kill the police, shoots 4 people, kills 2. And then we're just instantly told the official story that it is Vance Boelter. And, oh, he's going to be found dead. And he in the text message, I'm going to be found, I'm probably going to be dead. And then we're told, oh, people heard shots in the woods. Police found the car a few hours ago. Dead men tell no tales. Oh, here's Vance Boelter's body. We got his phone right here with his text messages. It's him. He did it. This has got the signs of setup all over it.
Has Alex Jones not learned his lesson? I mean, he was sued for, what, over $1 billion or somewhere close to there because he did the same thing around the Sandy Hook shootings, trying to claim that it was a false flag event. That all of these little details, they just really didn't make a whole lot of sense, and that surely this Vance Boelter guy, he was going to turn up dead so they can cover their tracks. Well, it turns out Vance Boelter, he was taken alive. He was found by the police. We have his vehicle where he had no King's flyers, where he had a list of, I believe, 70 other Democratic officials and abortion providers and so on and so forth. And you're trying to tell me that guy is targeting Democratic officials because he's on the left? It makes absolutely no sense. It makes no sense at all. But because these people do not want to take any accountability for their supercharged rhetoric, for their unhinged lunatic leader at the top of the ticket, this is the kind of shit that we can expect. It is so dishonest and it is so gross. We should be taking a step back and maybe trying to come together and start trying to work with one another. Somebody just lost their mom. Somebody just lost their dad. And we're fighting over politics because the right wing is just out of fucking control. Even over on Fox News, here he is trying to tie the shooter to Tim Walz, who is the Democratic governor of Minnesota, who, by the way, was also on the assassins list. He was on the kill list. Tim Walz was targeted for assassination as well on this list.
And then overlaid over top of all this is the pretty clear, obvious political bent of this guy, the political associations, and the target list, where he intentionally targeted these Democrat lawmakers, one in particular who had voted against a priority of many Democrats and had brought a lot of fire or a lot of criticism over that.
Yeah, the political backdrop of this is again murky because, again, according to the roommate, he voted for Donald Trump, but he was not engaged in local politics, and I didn't know anything that he even knew these local politicians. He didn't seem to be very engaged in all of that. So he says the only thing that he seemed to be interested in politically was he was anti-abortion. That seems to be the only solid thing that the roommate could go to, but we do know his wife was apparently an intern for Tim Walz. He had associations with Tim Walz and had gotten some money from Tim Walz and had been appointed to a board by Tim Walz. So he had those connections. So it's quite murky.
These people are terrible human beings. You have the largest propaganda network, the right-wing media of the state, spinning up stories trying to connect the shooter to Tim Walz. First of all, we already know that the shooter, or the alleged shooter, was appointed by the previous governor to some sort of workforce development board. Tim Walz came up and re-upped that appointment. This is not somebody that Tim Walz has met. And so to suggest that he somehow got money from Tim Walz, that's ludicrous. I don't think it's ever been proven that he was some sort of intern for Tim Walz's wife either. So they are just lying to you. They want you to believe that this was a left-wing lunatic who was targeting Democrats because they weren't far left enough. Except that theory falls flat. because Melissa Hortman, they try to point to this bill that was going to allow undocumented immigrants to get health care, I believe. She voted against that. But the problem with that theory is that John Hoffman voted for that bill. So even their own theories, they don't pass the sniff tests. They are lying to you to try to score political points. Here's Newsmax, a Newsmax host, trying to claim it's all the left. That's where we're seeing all of this violence come from.
I want you to take a listen to this. State Representative Hortman, just a few days ago, voted no on health care for illegal aliens. She seemed, her voice trembling. Take a listen to what she said here, sir.
I know that people will be hurt by that vote, and we worked very hard to try to get a budget deal that wouldn't include that provision.
So there she is. She voted against health care for illegal aliens. The suspect had no Kings flyers, protests, those left in his car. We just keep seeing it escalating. And to your point, where are the Democrats condemning this kind of violence? And the media, talk to me about the media's role in this.
Well, the media's role is very instrumental, but we have our political people becoming more activists instead of governing for we the people. And this is a perfect example when you showed me that video, her being so concerned probably behind the curtain that this may have a political fallout.
There that theory is, whole cloth, trying to say, oh, well, she appeared in a video. She was so upset that she voted against the bill for undocumented immigrants and health care. But like I said, John Hoffman voted for that bill. So their own theory doesn't make any sense. And we know that the vast, vast majority of political violence in this country is carried out by right-wing lunatics. That is what the data shows. It's not even close. It's not even close. And what we do know about this shooter is that he voted for Trump. He was a strong Trump supporter, just like his roommate. We know that he had no Kings flyers in his car as maybe some sort of other target. We know he had a manifesto. We know he had a list of other Democratic lawmakers and abortion providers and so on and so forth. All of the evidence points in one direction, people, that this was a right-wing lunatic. And then I just want to show you a few of these that were going around on Twitter. Here you've got Mike Cernovich. Did Tim Walz activate an assassin against a political rival who voted against him plan to give illegal immigrants free health care? Oh no, guys. Did Tim Walz activate an assassin? What about this guy, Alec Lace? Melissa Hortman sounded fearful after voting to repeal health care for illegal aliens. Almost as if she knew that her base would become unhinged. She and her husband were tragically shot and killed. A targeted attack, per Governor Walz. Was her vote the motive? These people are truly unhinged. They are terrible, terrible human beings. They are sick individuals. And even you have Laura Loomer here. The media wants to gaslight you into thinking the shooter in Minnesota is a Trump supporter. He was appointed by Walz, he was friends with Walz, and he had no Kings flyers in his car, everybody. No Kings is a violent group, and it's no surprise the shooting took place the day the No Kings protest kicked off across the country. The organizers of No Kings and Governor Tim Walz need to be detained by the FBI and interrogated. So that is what Laura Loomer is saying, trying to say that the No Kings protest, they're just a whole bunch of violent radicals. Even though there were, 3-4 instances of violence, and most of those were caused by MAGA agitators at the No Kings protest, they were all mostly peaceful, overwhelmingly peaceful. These people are unhinged. They are sick individuals. And then here's his roommate, yet again, from that same interview, being very, very clear. Well, did he talk about Trump at all? And here's what he said.
Did he talk much about Trump? And what did he say, if so?
I was a Trump supporter. Voted for Trump. You like Trump? I like Trump. And,
Pretty clear. He liked Trump. He voted for Trump. He supported Trump. It is absolutely disgusting that this is where our politics is today, as I described in another video. It is shameful that these are the types of conversations we have to be having, even though people just lost their lives due to a deranged right-wing lunatic who decided to take things into their own hands because he had a political disagreement with these people. And this is where we're at. I have to fight against all of this disinformation bullshit coming from the right wing because they cannot just own up to their own unhinged shit. That's where we're at. That is where we're at. It is so damn frustrating that this is where we are at. We should be doing better here in the United States of America. We should be able to mourn the loss of our colleagues, of our leaders. But instead, we even have sitting senators coming out and cracking jokes. And it's all terrible. These right-wing lunatics are out of fucking control. And they need to take a step back and realize that this charged political rhetoric is contributing to the radicalization of people like Vance Boelter. And instead of owning up to any of it, they try to cast blame on the other side. Even though the overwhelming majority of violence, political violence in this country, comes from the right-wing lunatics. So, I'll leave it there for now, guys. If you guys got anything out of this video, please do remember to smash that like button and subscribe. Maybe share with a friend or two. I'd very much appreciate that. We are trying to build something here on the left that adequately pushes back against the right-wing media ecosystem that just launders all of this crazy lunatic bullshit for Donald Trump day in and day out. So if you do like what I do here, please remember to smash that subscribe button. Of course, that is free. And if you guys want to see a kind of a timeline of events of how these shootings occurred, how the police kind of intervened in some places, and who Vance Boelter is, go ahead and watch that video on the screen now. We did a breakdown of kind of the entire story as it was developing. Otherwise, I'll see you guys on the next one.